For those serious about the sport of fitness, now is the time to build strength, gymnastic skills, and improve your overall capacity. We have divisions for RX, intermediate, masters, and elite athletes. For more information, go to trainingthinktank.com. All right, let's wrap this up with 4 and 5, and then we'll talk about the last day. So event 4 was a run into a max snatch, but the run didn't matter. So the scoring was just basically what you hit on your max snatch. And then event 5 was the 8 snatches into the 800-meter run.
So there was other workouts. It was 6, right, where they changed the time cap from guys to girls. Why didn't the guys have a different time cap for 4?
That's a really good question. They should have.
It's either that. So there's a couple of ways that I go with that. That was a different test for the guys. The guys could run at a very leisurely pace, still get off at, like, for most guys, like 3:15 to 3:20, and have plenty of time for 4 lifts. The girls have to push it a little bit more. They're probably a little bit more tired. They're getting off around 3:40, 3:45, and they are probably rushing for 3, maybe getting 4, especially if they got over there and got to work right away. I'd want to know what the reasoning is behind that. Why'd you change the time cap over here and not over here? Why did you have them use 185 when the girls use 125, when in the past we've used 135? Like, where are these numbers coming from? Why are we changing things here and not here? That style of test, I think, would immediately change things if the time cap was extended. Or I think what would have been much cooler is if the time cap was shortened, or they put a minimum pace on the run.
Or
my mind always goes like, how could we have done this? How could we have done this? And I hope that this is taken as constructive criticism. Picture that workout, and I'll talk about 6 in a second, but picture number 4 if the guys had to run sub 3 and the girls had to run sub 3:15.
Oh.
Now the run matters.
Into the max snatch.
Into the max snatch. Yeah. Now the run matters. And now that's a really, really interesting test. That now you're placing a little bit more pressure, like we talked about before with some of the gymnastics. You're placing more pressure on the lifters to go out and do what they can do, versus before you're putting a ton of pressure on the gymnastics people. You're putting a ton of pressure on the people who can breathe to make sure they can still execute what the bottleneck is. You took the bottleneck out and you just let the people who snatch. I feel like if you want to test running and snatching, put more emphasis on the running, and then really make the snatchers have to, like, step up to the plate and be like, my heart rate is at 175 right now. I got to figure out how to take this bar.
And there's a precedent for that. Last year at the games, they did or was it 2 years ago, whenever they did the row that had to be under a certain time.
Yeah. So the end event last year was that Jackie one, right? Yeah. It was that variation where they had to row 1K under 140, under 150, I think, for the pace per 500.
Right. And that changed that workout a lot.
People were everything.
Really messed up.
It changes everything. And I feel like that's just such an easy tweak to that test that immediately places a little bit more emphasis on the run, and it places more pressure on the snatch, which I think it makes it more exciting.
Yeah. The pushback there, since you did this to me, would be most guys and girls would not hit the same loads, which would not be as fun to watch. I think that's why they did it. They wanted they wanted to see Hopper hit 305, or I think Marquand Jones hit like 295 or something like that. Those were fun to watch. That was an event that I'm standing on the side watching athletes, and it was cool to see people hit those at the buzzer.
Then give them 3 minutes to snatch.
Yeah, more time, but you still have to run the 3-minute 800.
Did you talk to people who said, I didn't hit my number because of the run?
No, it meant nothing.
So why the run? And then, let's hit 5, and then I'll talk about 6.
All right. Number 5. So 8 touch and go snatches into the 800-meter run, which did matter.
Yeah. I liked that setup. I think there might even be an argument that weight probably could have been a little bit heavier. I think the percentage of both fields, at least at the East, in terms of people who are able to touch and go that at a relatively quick clip.
It was incredible.
It was really, really high. I don't know if they expected that. Maybe they did expect it. But it made it more of a running workout. I think, again, if you're trying to put components into a workout and you're trying to think about trying to make it a balanced test, that barbell probably mattered a little bit less than I think what they thought. And maybe that was the case. Maybe that's what they wanted. Maybe they wanted everybody to be fast, and that way they have to push the run. But looking at that, I think that probably surprised them a little bit. And I think that the strength levels of the semifinal athlete have continued to grow at paces that maybe are outpacing sort of like their expectations, I think. Picture that test at 205 and 140, right?
Yeah.
The percentage
of changed.
The style of athlete that goes touch and go, and the style of athlete that now has to make up a ton of ground on the run, it changes everything. I don't know. Maybe the intent of the test was still there, but what's different in this setup if we take the run out of the first one, give them 3 minutes to snatch, 2 minutes to rest, 800-meter run for time. So that's 4 and 5. It's still max load and time, but we took out the buy-in for both of those.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the 800-meter run, like we talked about before, it really didn't matter that much, right? Like, as long as you weren't an idiot on it, get off at 2:30 or something, it didn't matter that much. I don't think it changed people's numbers too much. The 8 touch and go, surprisingly, I think, didn't really matter as much. Like maybe down in like 30 to 45 or so.
It only hurt the bottom 20 that couldn't touch and go.
But everybody in like the last 3 heats was touch and going that, right?
Yeah.
So that was my takeaway from that test was I wonder what that would have looked like, how the scoring would have changed if we had just done 3-minute max snatch, 2-minute rest, 800-meter run for time, what it would have changed. Sydney still wins that one. I feel like the girls who still snatch well still win that one. Probably the same on the guys' field. It just, to me, like, why are you putting extra stuff in the test if it's not going to impact the result of the test?
Yeah, I agree. I still like your idea, though, of doing a run buy-in before the max snatch.
Yeah.
800 at 3 minutes, and maybe what would the female pace be? 318, 320?
Yeah, call it like 315.
Is that still you're moving?
Yeah.
That would have been more entertaining. You probably would have to extend the time on the snatch just to give them some time to actually hit a load.
Yeah. I think it's more interesting in terms of how you test strength in the sport, because he said that, like, he loves to test strength under fatigue. That wasn't strength under fatigue. That was strength with a buy-in. That didn't really matter. That was like the old Jackie buy-in. Like, if you go nuts on the old Jackie buy-in of your 1K row into the thrusters and the pull-ups, you made a mistake. If you go hard on that 800 meters, you made a mistake. Make them go hard anyways, and then see what they can do afterwards. That's strength under fatigue. Yeah.
All right. You already touched on event 6, but let's just go back over it again. Maybe just give me what you loved, since you already talked about you hated the row and the overhead squat.
Again, I like the fact that we are moving gymnastics in ways that are going to make people better. Right. I like sort of pushing the levels of complexity there. Like, this was one of the ones when I looked at it and I saw, I was like, we did a really good job of preparing our athletes.
Yes.
This is like, we know that this is a variation of a rope climb that he tried to test at the games. He didn't get his chance to do it. It's going to come up. We did so many variations of this: outside the hips, inside the hips, up and down a couple of times, making sure that you're getting hands above and below a line. We did all of that. And so seeing that on paper, I was like, we did a good job.
Yeah. And I think our athletes were well prepared. Even the ones that aren't great at rope climbs, they handled themselves really well.
I feel like everybody they saw that and they weren't scared of it, because they knew that they had prepared as best as they could. And even like the handstand pirouettes, like, we've done enough handstand walking skill variations with around a cone, going over there and hold inside of a 4x4 foot box. Like, we've done so much of that, and we've gotten people so good on their hands. I like that. I like the idea of the sport, like, testing us in ways that we haven't been tested before, because it makes training, to me, it makes it more fun. So 6 on paper, I really liked the middle of it. And I feel like that could have just been the test, just sort of knowing how it played out. Like, watching Noah sit and have a conversation with Will on the last rower.
Ridiculous.
Like, one, it's Noah, but two, why are they rowing? Why are they even rowing right now? It makes no sense to me.
For those that didn't watch the event, he literally was talking normally to Will.
God bless him. He loved everything about that moment, because he knew he was going to win. The workout was over. Yes. He knew he was going to win. I don't know. I
mean, it's partly impressive because he was that far ahead, but also shows that the row and overhead squats to finish probably didn't matter.
I don't know how, like, the workout was over and he knew it, and everybody knew it, which made it fun for him, because then he could enjoy it.
Alex had that cool save on the rope.
Yeah, that was interesting. After some of the judging issues earlier in the week, I was filming all of her reps that had any sort of like issues with the standards, like we had talked about earlier.
Those big bottleneck ones.
The big bottleneck ones that are costly. And so I had a video zoomed in of her going up and touching the line with her bottom hand, coming up all the way above it, and then him giving a no rep there. And I was in my head in that split second before she, like, changed direction and started going back up. I was like, I'm going to have to use this. I'm going to have to, like, we're going to have to go appeal this, because this is going to be an issue. This is going to bottleneck her later. And instead she just looks at him and then goes right back up and then comes back down.
Didn't skip a beat. It was like the rep was supposed to be come down a couple.
I would have been done. I would just fell down the rope.
Yeah. One of the things that you had said earlier, and I don't know, maybe we'll go back and talk about this, the difference between athletes 1 through 10 and athletes like 11 through 25 or so. I feel like physical capacity aside, physical abilities aside, is the self-confidence that they have in themselves. I feel like self-confidence is probably one of the biggest predictors of athletic success. And success is still subjective there, like success for Alexis versus Allison versus Jessica versus Faith. Success is subjective. But your ability to live up to your potential, I think, is 95% dictated by your belief in yourself. She knew, like, how much time we spent on the rope, how much stronger her grip has gotten, and she didn't miss a freaking beat and going back up that rope and then didn't let her slow her down afterwards. An athlete who walks into that with compromised levels of self-belief, confidence that's taken a hit in a prior workout or where they're at on the leaderboard, that happens to them. And I think that they go into a bubble. They shrink up. They probably draw back instead of like leaning into it and being like, I am not going to let this derail my workout. It's just interesting to see the difference from a mentality standpoint from the athletes who have that belief in themselves, who have that confidence, and what it can do for them.
Yeah. You also have you have to have a requisite amount of fitness to do so. But
Sure.
that comes with belief, right? Like as you get more fit, you start believing in yourself more and more.
It's how you handle a lot of things that go on over the course of the weekend. Like the no rep is one of them. Like the no rep for somebody who doesn't have the grip endurance to be able to go back up, it becomes more of a deal breaker. But how do they respond to that? They get
Sure.
the no rep and like, okay, I can't go back up right now, but now I know that this means I have to rest 75 seconds
Right.
versus I got a no rep. Holy shit, there goes my workout. I'm done. I'm just going to sit here. I might try again too quick because I'm nervous about it. I might try again with too much rest because I don't trust myself. You can see the difference in the reaction.
Totally.
Which, again, it is dependent a little bit on physical capacity, but it is also, like, I think, mostly determined by what is it that you think that you're capable of right now.
Yeah. All right, and then the last event number 7, this is probably the only one that there was an actual race, but even then the gap was pretty wide until the final heat.
Yeah.
I still thought that the workout was a little dull, to be completely honest, in the first 4 heats. And then maybe the top 20, there were a couple races, and most of it seemed to still be dictated by the bike. But what did you love? What did you hate?
Again, it still seemed like they were trying to test something that wasn't supposed to be biased as much as it was. Like the bike power, I think for the top end, the last heats of 10 was pretty much the entire workout. People were breaking on the toes to bar and still winning. They were breaking on the, like, not necessarily sprinting with the sandbag and still winning. The bike power, I feel like, was the big separator in that. I saw Noah get off the bike probably 20 seconds behind Roman and try and do the fast cycle rate on the toes to bar, and it just wasn't enough. And
Right.
so it's not one of those workouts where you can try and pick and choose separation. It's one of those where it's like, this is what it is. You can try and adjust your strategy to meet you and your strengths and where you're at. But I feel like the result of that and the kind of athlete who's going to win that is very dictated by being bigger, being able to put power into the bike, and being able to not have that power suck the life out of you for the other movements.
That actually was what was most impressive to me, both in the male and female side, but especially the top 3 or 4 males, and how much power they could put into the bike each round without having a major drop off.
Yeah.
They absolutely were flying. And if
Yeah.
we did that test 5 years ago, everyone would have started this at the same pace. Like basically the guys like, Dallin Pepper and the other guys, they sprinted. Like they were going basically max effort. But they did that each of the rounds. Like there was only a few seconds of drop off, and you would have seen sprint the first round and then probably 20 or 30 seconds of drop off in the second round, and then guys would have been holding like 350 or 400 watts in the last round.
I watched Roman go, and he probably did 15 in 15 seconds or something.
Yeah.
That was a balls to the wall sprint. I thought that Dallin, honestly, I feel like it doesn't look like it, but I do think that he paced it. I do think that he built as he went. It's because I watched him get off his toes to bar and I watched him sprint with the sandbag, and I saw the look on his face versus Roman's face. And I feel like he was probably at like 95% instead of like Roman was 100%. I feel like he was trying to get on the podium at that point. I watched Dallin go and I watched him build as he went. And I thought that was almost like, it was like a subtle pace.
Yeah. But still, I mean, he's holding 800 to 1,000 watts.
Yeah.
It wasn't 5, again, like guys in the gym that test that workout, if they start at 800 or 1,000 watts, which isn't a sprint for those powerful guys, they're just still going to blow up.
Yeah.
Like one 15 cal sprint, they do the toe to bar and they're not going to be able to hold on to the toe to bar anymore.
Yeah.
So that was super impressive to me. I thought that was at least one that was a little bit more entertaining to watch. So I did love that they were trying to do that. But there are a bunch of other ways that they could have made it a race where there were 10 guys racing at the end, or maybe 5 guys racing. In reality, it was only a few in each of the heats.
Yeah. Again, I feel like the majority of that workout is still just dictated by body weight and strength, though. And I think that's why I feel like 8 or 9 of the 12 qualifying guys were over 205 pounds. Like there's a reason for that. And there's I don't know if that's the trend of the sport. I don't know if that's where we're going, but I feel like there's a reason for that, because you took an endurance-based workout, you made it very limited by strength. You took a gymnastics-based workout, and if the ruck is a lower percentage of your body weight, you're probably going to do a little bit better with it. Just even like looking at the females doing that. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know where the sport's going to go from there, but it was very clear with the semifinal level of programming, what kind of athlete it was selecting for. And I hope that at the games level, we kind of shift and we try and test something a little bit broader, where we try and place a little bit more emphasis on endurance. We try and place a little bit more emphasis on CrossFit, where an athlete can pick and choose where it is they want to race inside of a workout, and not just be handed something on paper and be like, you're either good at this one component of these 5 or you're not.
Yeah. Let's finish it there. What tests, you just give me like 1 or 2, you kind of already alluded to this, but what are the things that you want Bosman to program at the games to kind of fill in the gaps that haven't been tested yet?
I want a long endurance workout that isn't dictated by an athlete's body weight, right?
Okay.
Because I just feel like that, like we've said it multiple times, there hasn't been a point in this semifinal where it was like, can you breathe, and can you just breathe? Not can you breathe and also weigh 205 pounds and be able to move a sled, 30 seconds per 27 feet or whatever it was. I don't like that. I don't like the fact that we have always thought about CrossFit as you have to be enduring, you have to be strong, and you have to have skills, right? Now it was like, you have to have some skills, you have to have some endurance, but really you have to be freaking strong. So I want to make sure that those things are tested. The skills even like, it wasn't even necessarily skills. It was like very specific ways to be able to express gymnastic strength, which maybe is what gymnastic skill is. Maybe that's what it looks like at its very core, but it didn't seem like that. It didn't seem like triple unders or crossovers where it was like something you can practice at and get better. It's either like your anthropometrics make you really good at wall facing handstand push-ups or not.
Right.
So yeah, I think skills will be fun. I think more endurance will be fun. I think a chipper style CrossFit workout where there's multiple points or possibilities for separation would be really cool.
Yeah, I would love to see just a couple classic CrossFit workouts thrown in there. Like I especially at the games, I love the idea of having some of those bottlenecks. Like you need that to find the best in the sport. But give me 3, maybe 4 events if there's going to be 12 or 15 events that are just true CrossFit style workouts where people are having to race and there's something that's like tight at the finish that's exciting to watch.
The 2023 CrossFit Games is the 2013 CrossFit Games.
I don't even remember
all the same workouts.
Wouldn't that be sick though?
It would be crazy.
Oh man,
no, it would not. It would be like, you guys didn't want to come up with your own programming. This just makes it easy
that the
for
Murph year?
I don't know.
No,
well, they did it twice, right?
Yeah, I think that was like 15 and 16, something like that.
All right, well, we got superstar Alexis Raptis over here. We got
Alexis, come on down.
Wrap it up, boys.
All right, thank you, Adam.
Yep.
If you enjoyed this clip from episode 132 of the Corpus Animus podcast, click on the screen to see the other clips, or if you want to listen to the audio version with the full thing, check out all the other major podcast providers. Yeah, that sounds good. Do that.